My hero's on break this week, so I want to talk about what I think is going to be happening in the next chapter, which is coming out next week, as well as what's been happening in the last couple chapters, and what's going on with Shigaraki / All For One / whatever they are going against Star and Stripe, as well as what's going to happen in the future of the story, because I do think that chapter 330 plays a big part in that, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't already. It's like a 10 out of 10 chapter if there ever was one, in my opinion. So I think a big part of this started in chapter 329 when we see All For One talking to Spinner at their island nation. And All For One says, "I have heaps of friends all around the globe. All Might may have eradicated organized crime here in Japan, but other nations are a different story. Once those friends of mine start stirring up trouble, each country will have to weigh its own priorities against the needs of others." And then Spinner asks him, what's the obstacle and the opportunity? And All For One says, Star and Stripe. "The strongest woman around, the hero who reigns supreme in the land of the free. This is a gamble. She will prove far more than a mere nuisance, but should I manage to steal her quirk, the rest of this war will be just a formality." And then we saw in the follow-up chapter that Shigaraki / All For One, or whatever is going on with them, met up with Star and Stripe. And unfortunately, I think this is leading to Star and Stripe's ultimate demise, or defeat in some way if she doesn't straight up die. It seems like she had the perfect cool character introduction who is set up to fail, which we've seen time and time again. I guess it's a trope at this point, but it was masterfully done by Horikoshi. I mean, she came in, had cool dialogue, cool moments, full explanation of her quirk, showed multiple really cool examples of how to use it. We even got her backstory in the chapter. It was just 3 panels, her motivations, everything. She was just completely set up within those 18 pages, and outside of that, we don't really have too much of an attachment to her. So like I said, she's perfectly set up to fail here. She's essentially Deus Ex Jobber. I think she was just introduced in a story as a way for All For One and Shigaraki to get her insane quirk. I think Horikoshi did a similar thing with Eri. I know everybody loves Eri, she's all cute and everything, but in my opinion, she's just a vehicle to house the rewind quirk, which is going to be integral to the overall story in my opinion, so it doesn't really matter who has rewind, but I guess Horikoshi thought it was a good idea to have Eri house the quirk. So now that I'm pretty positive that Star and Stripe is going to fall in the next chapter, or the chapter after that, let's look at why it makes sense that she would fail and why it's maybe really important to the story. So there's 2 things, and one of them is All For One getting New Order. Now, I don't know if this is guaranteed. I mean, obviously it was foreshadowed, like I said, in chapter 329, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen just because he said it. However, I do think there's a good chance that he will get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. And I'm sure if he does get it, people will probably have issues with it maybe because he would become too powerful, right? I mean, he's already too powerful. So giving him reality manipulation might make people think that, this breaks the series or something. And I don't think it does. I think Horikoshi comes very close to that, but doesn't quite do it. There's plenty of other series that, by the end of it, they have nigh omnipotent villains, and it doesn't completely ruin their series, although they usually have rocky landings with Deus Ex friendshipy endings, which I think My Hero will partly have, but not to an extent where it's going to ruin it. But I just think All For One getting New Order makes sense for the end of the series, because, why not just make All For One so powerful that not even the reader can see a conceivable way of the MC defeating them, only for the MC to defeat them in some hopefully well-written way. And there's also a possibility that Horikoshi needs All For One to have this ability to progress the plot to get to a certain point it needs to, and that begs the question of how would he even use this quirk? And I honestly can't even really think of any examples, because this quirk is just so incredibly nuanced and versatile. On top of All For One being a diabolical genius, he could literally do anything, which is a very fun concept, but at the same time, I'm sure that raises a lot of issues with not just, crafting the story, but also, the reader reception. But either way, if he gets it or if he doesn't get it, I think it's fine. But I do think Star and Stripe is going to fail regardless because of what he said previous to managing to steal her quirk, and that's, I have heaps of friends all around the globe. All Might may have eradicated organized crime here in Japan, but the other nations are a different story. Once those friends of mine start stirring up trouble, each country will have to weigh its own priorities against the needs of others. And it was Star and Stripe standing in the way of all of this, so once she's taken out, that means all of his friends, all of his international villains buddies are going to start coming into the picture, which is, probably integral for the end game, because there's, probably going to be a big end game type war, like Avengers. And clearly there's not enough, League of Villains and Liberation Army guys out there to have this grand epic final, war. So these silhouetted characters in the fedoras are going to come in and help out with that. I mean, I wish that Star and Stripe would stick around. I mean, I think she's a pretty cool character, but I've always wanted to see the American characters come to light in this series, and we finally have the #1 hero. Oh, and by the way, I haven't talked about this yet, but in a surprise, it's not Captain Celebrity, it's in fact her. And that makes me think that maybe Captain Celebrity has been retconned out of this canon completely, because he was the #1 hero only like 5 or 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, or something like that, right? And there's no way that Star and Stripe was not the #1 hero within the last like 10 years. So I wonder what's going on with that. I mean, Captain Celebrity, very powerful, but not superior to Star and Stripe in my opinion. Now this could easily just be explained in one panel or something, but I don't think it is, because it's rare that we get like this vigilante crossover stuff. It was more likely for us to get a movie crossover, like with her backstory.
Hey, if you made it this far, maybe you'd be interested in following me on Twitter. I talk about all of the new battle anime and manga stuff, and all the spoilers and pop culture things as well. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, please check out my Twitter. The link is in the description. Thanks, guys.
But I guess that's it. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. If All For One does get New Order, what do you think he's going to do with it? Like, what do you think some of the rules he's going to make? And also, what do you think about his friends around the globe, the international villains? Who do you think they are? I mean, you can't really exactly guess their exact identity, but where do you think they're coming from? What do you think abilities they're going to have? And how much of an important part do you think they're going to play? And do you think we're coming to that big endgame war? I mean, it only makes sense to cap this series off that way. I mean, why not? It's a shonen battle manga. I mean, come on. But let me know. And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.